It is now in order to consider Amendment Number 3, printed in Part A of House Report 114-420. For what purpose does the gentleman from Washington seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, I have an amendment at the desk.
Clerk will designate the amendment.
Amendment number 3, printed in Part A of House Report number 114-420, offered by Mr. Newhouse of Washington.
Pursuant to the House Resolution 609, the gentleman from Washington, Mr. Newhouse, and a member opposed, each will control 5 minutes. The chair recognizes the gentleman from Washington.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's very fitting today that we are considering this bill. It's the same week that the President released his final budget of his administration, a budget that would add nearly $2.6 trillion to our national debt over the next 5 years. In fact, this President has never submitted a budget to Congress that would balance. Few Americans may realize this, but just last week, our national debt reached $19 trillion. Mr. Speaker, $19 trillion. When the President came to office in 2009, the debt stood at $10.6 trillion. So that's nearly doubling our national debt in just 7 years' time. Mr. Speaker, we are on a high-speed train, careening towards a fiscal cliff, and soon it may be too late to slow this train down. If I could, in the name of all that is fiscally sane, I would enact an amendment to the Constitution right now requiring us to balance our budget. But unfortunately, Mr. Speaker, our Constitution requires 2/3 of our colleagues here in Congress to approve that amendment, which history and previous votes on constitutional amendments has shown is a very difficult bar to reach. While this measure may not be the balanced budget amendment that our country desperately needs and deserves, it will help draw a very clear line of distinction in the sand. Mr. Speaker, the amendment that my colleagues from Virginia and Ohio and Alabama and I are offering would simply require the President to tell the American people whether or not they support a balanced budget amendment when he or she asks for a debt ceiling increase. It's as simple as that. This is about transparency and about being open with the American people about where you stand on this very critical issue. It would provide a very clear contrast if the President asks to raise the debt ceiling by trillions of dollars in this case, but offers no support for a measure that would put an end to our nation's debt problems for good. Make no mistake, the time is quickly coming when our nation will have to make the decision if we want to restore the fiscal health of our nation to a state of stability and prosperity for future generations, or go down the same road of nations like Greece that have been shattered by their debt woes. When that day comes, the American people deserve to know who is standing where. And thank you, and I reserve the balance of my time.